Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Off the Cuff with Cliff. My name is Cliff Moore. I am today's host. I want you to meet my co-host, Sheba. Sheba will be on some of the shows with me. Sheba, why are you here?
Well, I could be canoeing on that lake behind us, but I'm stuck here with you today.
Well, how did we get here today, Sheba? I think this was sort of a conversation we had, and somehow or other we ended up doing this. Why are we doing this?
We did. It was during one of our business coaching meetings. And we were talking about how we've met so many interesting people through networking, entrepreneurs, or just different people and business connections. And everyone has such a fascinating story.
And you know what? I agree with you 100%. As a power connector, I've met hundreds, if not thousands of people. And you learn about their business and you learn about what they do, but you really don't know them. And once you understand their passion and why they're doing it, it resonates totally, totally different, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I've learned, when you make a connection with someone, you're going to remember them. You're not going to remember a name or an ad. You're going to remember the person.
Right. People do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And sometimes just having a conversation and finding out they have a dog, it's just
Right.
It's like, wow, you have a dog, and it just sort of changes the whole dynamics of that relationship, doesn't it?
It does. It builds different levels of trust and, finding common ground that might not have anything to do with what you're talking about from
Correct.
a business perspective.
Right.
But, like you said, know, like, and trust. So what a great way to get to know people.
And putting yourself out there is probably one of the hardest things, because we all self-sabotage ourselves. We overanalyze ourselves. We criticize ourselves. So we don't like to be on camera. We don't like to get up and do our 30-second commercial. Say, I've never done this before, and they get nervous. And the truth of the matter is, hey, even if they screw up, as long as they don't hesitate, nobody even knows if you screwed up other than yourself. Isn't that true?
Yeah, you're your worst critic.
You're your worst critic, exactly.
For sure.
So, one of the reasons that we talked about putting this together is to put people on video, and not that it's called Off the Cuff for a reason, right? We don't care if there's mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be errors. This is unedited. It's unscripted. We can say what we want.
Right.
I'm going to warn you not to curse, because when we put this on YouTube, Sheba, they're not going to let it play.
Oh, my potty mouth.
Your potty mouth. So what do you think of the dynamics of a show like this?
I love the idea of unscripted, because organic conversations always bring out some of the best lessons,
right,
for the person on the other end and for the person telling the story.
Sure.
You find out things about yourself as you're talking, and unscripted organic conversations are very valuable.
Sure. People are worried about the hair. They're worried about their shirt. They're worried about the wind. They're worried about everything else. And while they're worrying about that, people aren't even looking at that stuff, right? So,
are you talking about me, by the way?
I'm not talking about you, but there are times, Sheba.
There are times.
But so hopefully, we get people to be comfortable in wanting to come and do this type of stuff. So, how do you feel about being on camera now?
I'm getting more comfortable.
Okay.
I'm getting more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's part of being an entrepreneur, honestly.
Okay.
But honestly, I think it's freedom, and it's freeing for anyone to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Sure. Because we're all flawed humans, and who cares?
We're all perfectly imperfect, I say, right? We're perfectly imperfect.
So who cares if I don't like the way my nose looks on today's camera angle?
It doesn't really matter.
If I didn't mention it, no one would even look.
And, at the end of the day, it's about just putting yourself out there, because you are who you are. And you said it earlier. You got to be natural.
Yeah.
Because you can only fake it so far. A leopard doesn't change its spots.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of times people are more worried about what other people think about them rather than trying to get their message out. Just be yourself, right? Be in front of people.
Right. And let's face it, we all use social media in great ways, but social media today is basically a false world.
Absolutely.
Nothing is real.
Absolutely.
So what a better way for us to connect with people and really get to know them.
Right.
I don't want to know someone off their Instagram page or their Facebook page. I want to know who they are. I want to hear their story. I want to know their background, their life, how they got to where they are. I have something to learn from that. Sure. Everyone that crosses your path in life has a lesson to teach you.
Correct.
Might be positive, might be negative, but it's still a lesson.
Right.
And the more we meet people, the more it enriches our lives.
Right.
Like we're human beings are social animals. We're supposed to be connecting and networking, whether it be for business or personal.
You're absolutely right. And sometimes, people need to separate their business life and their professional life, but it's still the same, right?
Mm.
So sometimes that's why it's important. And you brought up social media. I at one time had an attorney back, and I'm going to go back. When social media first came out and Facebook, and my attorney, I saw him drinking, and I saw him looking at things from a different way, and you don't want to pass judgment, but at that time I'm like, is this really the guy I want to represent me? And then I really had to give it a second thought. Say, you know what? He's a human being too, right? If he's
Right.
outside and he's enjoying himself or whatever,
Right.
I mean that's great. Now I sort of flip it a little bit and say, I want to know a little bit more about that person. I always see him in a jacket and tie, and they always come across this way here. And then you find out. We went out to dinner the other night. We went to a dinner show, and we were sitting with some people, and as I'm there, I just started getting involved with feeding birds. Right, I'm a birdie
That's
now.
right,
I'm a
yes.
birdie now, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I don't know how we got on the subject. He pulls out his phone and he's showing me his bird feeders, and we had a whole conversation
Right.
around squirrels, and I was like, I only knew this guy as a businessman, that we only talked about a certain thing.
Right.
In fact, he sent me a text the other day on how to keep squirrels from my bird feeders. So
That's
here's a
nice.
guy that I only met for business, but it's turning more into, and it's a different kind of relationship.
Yeah, you've connected on a completely unrelated level,
Unrelated level.
which is so random, but it's cool,
It absolutely is.
right? I mean, now you have someone to throw ideas off of when you're having I don't know, what would it be, a bird feeder
A
issue?
bird moment, yeah. Or and do you know that bird feeders, depending on the color, attracts different birds?
No, I had no idea.
And the type of bird feeder also attracts different birds, and then the food attracts different birds.
Wow.
So a lot of times, and I did this myself when I first started feeding them, you put the bird feeders out, and I know we're off the topic, but it's off the cuff. Birds weren't coming, and then all of a sudden I did a Google thing, and I found out that a certain color attracts certain birds. And I said, wow, that's great. So I get a different color bird feeder, but I didn't realize that bird's bill couldn't go into that thing, so it needs to be that color for that particular bird. They still weren't coming, but if I did that color for that bird with the right seed, guess what happened? Now my whole yard is just full of birds.
Oh, that's funny. It's fascinating.
It's amazing. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. So, what do you think? Do you want to invite some people and just have a candid conversation with them?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I think some of the people that we've met through networking and stuff like that, and people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And my mantra: what you know is important, who you know is more important, but who knows what you know is what's most important.
Yes.
Let people see the other side of you, right?
Yeah.
Let them see you in your dirty clothes. Let them see you.
Exactly. Let's see the real raw you.
The real raw you, right?
Right.
Because that's where the true bond and connection is going to come from.
Mm-hmm. And also, you learn so much about people, learning about their personal life. I mean, of course, how much they want to share, but their personal life, their background, how they got to be where they're at. It gives you a lot of insight into a person, and you have a lot to learn.
You do. And sometimes we reconnect with people we haven't seen in years, right? So they only remember you from that last memory, right?
Yes.
And so they don't know that this happened. My son went to college, my daughter went here, this happened here, this happened. They don't know that. And so you spend some time catching up. But you have to remember, when you first see somebody you haven't seen for a long time, you're at two different levels, right?
You're right, and you're a little guarded, right?
You're very guarded.
And in your head, you're going, where was I the last time I saw this person? So what do they know about me? Where did we leave off? Right. So I don't know, power connector. You use that word all the time. And I think it's so important, because it's not about the connections you're making with the person, but then you can become an ambassador for that person.
Correct.
Right.
And from a business perspective, if people can't use your service, but they know what you need, or know what you do rather, and then all of a sudden, hey, I might not need somebody that wants to come and hang a bird feeder, but I know somebody that does, right? And it's those types of things. And then on a personal level, we all have our own guard, right? We all have our own little bubble. We all live in our little world. But truth be told, every family has skeletons. Every family has the same problems you have.
Yes.
They just mask it differently.
Yes.
And so rather than, what's that saying? Don't throw stones in a
At glass houses.
Glass house. I knew
Yeah.
it was something like that. I was going
Yeah.
to throw it at a brick house, but that wasn't going to work. You remember the story with the 3 little pigs?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's that type of stuff. So,
And again, not business. A friend reached out to me yesterday because she's cleaning out her kids' closets and she had so many clothes. She wasn't hiring me. She was texting me as a friend. It's fine. But she said, like, I have all these clothes and they're beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, this one charity is so short of clothes right now. So I sent her the link.
Right.
And that made me feel good. And
Sure.
it made her feel so good.
Sure.
She's like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to throw this in a bin.
Sure.
Now I know, and it makes me feel good. So it's not always about business. It's just about connecting with other people and putting good energy out there.
And you never know where it's going to go,
You
right?
never
You
know.
never know where it's going to go.
You never know. And in the converse, someone's going to help me.
Correct.
I'm going to reach out to someone
Correct.
who then knows someone who can help me with a personal situation,
Right.
maybe, right? Or my kid with a personal situation.
So I try and it took me time. It took me a lot of time to understand this because, when you're in business, you're in competition with yourself, and this is not really a business. But again, it's off the cuff. Your competition is I own restaurants. You don't want another restaurant in your area. You're competing with that restaurant. The truth of the matter is, when you look at all marketing studies, the more restaurants you have in an area, the better all the businesses do.
Right.
Or I'm a business coach, so I don't want you to meet another business coach, but it's really the opposite. I want you to meet the other business coach. So this way here, you know what value I bring to the table. You know what you don't want, right? And as I'm meeting new people for the first time, I know I am not going to need a financial advisor because I have no money. But the truth of the matter is, I might not need that person, but as I'm talking to them and they're telling me what they do, in my mind, my Rolodex in my brain is saying, hey, this person might be able to use them. This person might be able to.
Right.
So it's making that connection to what you
Yes.
said. I feel good about making the connection.
Yes.
I feel better when I'm making money doing it, but I feel good when I can help somebody else succeed.
Yeah, it's nice to help people and to connect them, and then they give you feedback and go, thanks for the referral. They were a great person and they helped me out, or they helped my mom out, or they helped my brother out.
Right.
It's a good feeling.
It's a very, very good feeling. Very good.
This is not the easiest journey, so it's nice to help each other out.
It is. And, a lot of times people are afraid to be exposed. Just get out there. Just do what we're doing. And as we talked when we decided to do this, it's off the cuff.
Yeah.
Come in, make mistakes. Who cares? Don't worry about anybody else cares or thinks about you because it's all about you.
Yeah. Be your real self.
Be your real self. We're going to be doing more of these. We're going to be inviting people. You're going to see Sheba more often. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if we ever get that going. And we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Sheba.
Thanks.